Imagine waking up in the morning, opening the window, and instead of streets, houses, and parks, all you see is the inside of a gigantic building. There are no neighborhoods, no cities spread across the planet. All of humanity lives inside a single structure. It sounds like science fiction, but could it be the future of our species? Throughout history, we have always dreamed of colossal structures, from pyramids to skyscrapers that challenge the limits of the sky. But what if we took this idea to the extreme? What if there were a building capable of concentrating billions of people, functioning as an entire city, standing upright? This vision may seem absurd at first glance, but there are very real reasons why engineers, architects, and scientists are exploring similar concepts. Overpopulation, climate change, and the uncontrolled growth of cities force us to think about increasingly bold solutions. We live on a planet that is becoming more crowded. In 1950, the world's population was just over 2 billion people. Today, we have surpassed 8 billion, and according to predictions, we will reach almost 11 billion by the end of the century. More people means more cities, more energy consumption, and of course, more environmental impact. Our cities already face serious problems: chaotic traffic, pollution, inequality, and an urban sprawl that devours forests and natural areas. The more we expand horizontally, the more space we steal from the planet. That's why architects and urban planners are looking upward for solutions. The idea of concentrating millions of people in vertical structures is not just a futuristic daydream. Projects like The Line in Saudi Arabia already propose entire cities inside giants of steel and glass. Stretching 170 kilometers in length and only 200 meters wide, this construction aims to house 9 million people in an ultra-controlled and sustainable environment. This is just one example of how imagination is already turning into reality. If today we are thinking of vertical cities, it's not hard to imagine that in a distant future, someone might dream of placing all of humanity inside a single building. When we talk about megastructures, we are referring to constructions so massive that they surpass any urban scale we know today. They are true vertical cities, designed to sustain life, economy, and society all within one space. Science fiction has already explored this concept extensively. Movies and books describe arcologies, enormous buildings functioning as closed ecosystems capable of housing millions of people. In futuristic stories, these structures appear as refuges against environmental disasters, or as symbols of power and control. But the idea is not confined to imagination. Engineers are already studying projects like the Sky Mile Tower, planned for Tokyo, which would reach 2 kilometers in height and have the capacity to house more than 50,000 people. Another example is the proposal for self-sustaining skyscrapers equipped with vertical farms and water recycling systems. Now, imagine expanding this to the maximum scale: a single building, kilometers tall and wide, designed to house billions of human beings. It would need to be more than just a building. It would be an entire city standing, with neighborhoods, industries, schools, hospitals, and even artificial ecosystems within its walls. This idea may sound like science fiction, but if we look at human history, we'll see that yesterday's impossibility is today's concrete reality. Who could have imagined that buildings over 800 meters tall, like the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, would become real? Or that urban projects like The Line would actually leave the drawing board? Since we are already moving in this direction, the question is no longer whether it's possible, but how far we can go. Building a structure to house billions of people is not simply enlarging a skyscraper. It means entering a completely new territory of engineering. Let's imagine some of the main challenges. First, materials. The steel and concrete we use today wouldn't be enough. To sustain kilometers of height and billions of tons in weight, we would need revolutionary materials such as ultralight alloys, advanced composites, or even graphene, known for its extraordinary strength. Second, energy. How to power such a colossal structure? Using only conventional electricity would be unthinkable. We would have to rely on technologies like nuclear fusion, orbital solar power, or hybrid systems capable of generating and storing absurd amounts of energy. Third, internal transportation. Think about traffic in a normal city. Now multiply that inside a building. Millions of people would need to move vertically and horizontally. Conventional elevators wouldn't be enough. Vertical magnetic trains, internal tunnels, and even personal transport drones would be necessary. Fourth, resilience. A construction of this size would face extreme winds, seismic activity, and intense climate changes. How to protect a structure that pierces through the clouds from earthquakes or storms powerful enough to shake entire cities? New forms of seismic engineering and shock absorption systems would be indispensable. Fifth, logistics. The supply of food, water, medicine, and products, everything would need to be produced or recycled inside the building itself. This means colossal scale vertical agriculture, internal industries, and an impeccable waste management system. And then there's the human factor. How do we design spaces that ensure quality of life, fresh air, and contact with green areas inside a closed environment? It's not enough to just raise walls. It would be necessary to create an entire ecosystem. To get an idea of the challenge, just look at the Burj Khalifa. Despite being impressive, it already faces issues like wind pressure and absurdly expensive cooling systems. Now imagine multiplying that by 100 or even 1,000. At this point, we realize a building to house all of humanity would not just be a matter of engineering. It would be a complete reinvention of how we understand urban life. Try to imagine your life inside this megastructure. Instead of neighborhoods spread across kilometers, you would have entire floors dedicated to housing, others for schools, hospitals, factories, and even leisure areas. Food would come from vertical farms located in specific sectors. Advanced hydroponic systems and lab-grown meat would guarantee food for everyone. Water would be constantly recycled, turning sewage into potable liquid in infinite cycles. And what about nature? There would be indoor gardens, artificial forests, and lakes controlled by climate systems. The idea would be to replicate a piece of the planet inside walls of concrete and glass. But living without a horizon would have deep psychological impacts. Contact with the sky, the wind, and open spaces is part of the human experience. Without it, we could face complex emotional and social problems. To compensate, perhaps simulators of natural environments would be created, with holograms or augmented reality recreating beaches, mountains, and starry skies. In practice, micro-versions of this already exist. In Hong Kong, entire buildings house tens of thousands of people in tiny apartments. In Tokyo, residential spaces are so compact that there's barely room to breathe. These cities are already living laboratories of what it's like to inhabit reduced and densely populated spaces. A global superbuilding would take this to the limit. It would be a mix of futuristic city and human beehive, where everything you need is just a few floors away. On the positive side, a superbuilding could drastically reduce our environmental impact. Instead of spreading cities across the planet, we would concentrate humanity in one spot, leaving vast natural areas free to regenerate. Energy efficiency would be huge, simplified transportation, shared resources, and centralized production. Life inside the structure could be highly technological. No long commutes to work, since everything would be within the same ecosystem. Medicine, education, and security could be standardized and optimized. But there are also huge risks. Putting billions of people in one place creates a massive single point of failure. Any structural problem, disaster, or attack could put the entire human species at risk. Moreover, the concentration of power would be terrifying. Whoever controlled this building would wield influence over all humanity. Another problem is inequality. Just like in our current cities, there would be rich areas and poor areas. The upper floors could become symbols of status, while the lower ones would be relegated to poverty. Instead of solving inequalities, we could concentrate them. And of course, there's the psychological factor. Living confined in a closed environment, without horizons, could turn this technological paradise into a golden prison. By imagining all of humanity living inside a single building, we are actually reflecting on our limits and choices. Will we ever build something so gigantic? Maybe not. But the technological advances that come from this idea are already transforming our cities. Vertical farming, clean energy, total resource recycling, and increasingly compact housing are trends born from these futuristic reflections. Even if we never see a building housing billions, we can apply these concepts to save the planet we live on today. After all, the true goal is not to stack humanity inside a colossal building, but to find ways to live sustainably without destroying the space that keeps us alive. Maybe this super building will never exist, but it reminds us of a simple truth. If we don't take care of Earth, the day may come when we'll need to seek shelter in artificial structures. And you? Would you live in a building that houses all of humanity, or do you prefer the freedom of an open planet with sprawling cities and endless horizons? Leave your opinion in the comments because this is a discussion that can spark many ideas about the future of our species. If you enjoyed this journey through the future of engineering and science, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next videos. Share it with that friend who loves imagining futuristic and technological scenarios. Here, curiosity knows no limits. And who knows, one day, you might be living inside a building that houses the entire Earth.